ustedes por cortesía de Univista Insurance, su mejor opción.
¿Qué tal, señores? ¿Cómo están? Les habla Marian de la Fuente. Muy bienvenidos a De Buena Fuente con Marian y a un programa muy especial de alcance internacional desde nuestros estudios de UniVista TV en la Ciudad del Sol, nuestro Miami, una de las mecas del turismo en los Estados Unidos, y en el que estaremos realizando una entrevista exclusiva al secretario general de la Organización Mundial de Turismo, al señor Francesco Frangialli, desde París, y donde a la vez estarán conectados con nosotros en una convocatoria internacional periodistas, ministros y secretarios de turismo desde diversas partes del mundo. Un hombre querido y admirado por su ardua y reconocida labor como secretario general de la Organización Mundial del Turismo y que desempeñó un papel clave en la transformación de esta organización. Supo elevar su estatus dentro del sistema de las Naciones Unidas, promoviendo políticas para el desarrollo sostenible del turismo de forma responsable y accesible para todos. Es un estratega con una enorme influencia en el mundo del turismo y que hoy de forma abierta y valiente va a exponer también las razones que le han llevado a elevar su voz contra lo que califica de politización, falta de ética y transparencia que, como en otros organismos dependientes de la ONU, también ha encontrado en la actual gestión de esta organización. Por eso, y en un momento tan importante para el futuro de la Organización Mundial del Turismo como la próxima elección que se avecina, junto a su sucesor como secretario general, el señor Taleb Rifai, decidieron publicar una carta abierta. La titularon "Unto, es hora de un cambio", un llamado a los representantes del sector turístico y a los ministros de turismo que, como les decía, próximamente tendrán en sus manos elegir al próximo secretario general de la organización, abogando por una mayor transparencia, ética y en la forma de manejar el organismo, con un mayor fortalecimiento del papel de la Organización Mundial del Turismo en ese escenario internacional. Enfatizan, además, la necesidad de recuperar la credibilidad y el liderazgo de esta organización en tiempos de crisis globales y cambios en el turismo. Y para que sea su propio protagonista quien de Buena Fuente nos ponga todo esto en contexto, comenzamos ya De Buena Fuente con Marian. Está con nosotros el propio secretario Francesco Frangialli, a quien quiero dar la bienvenida. Muchísimas gracias, señor Frangialli, por estar con nosotros en el día de hoy. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us today. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Es muy complicado en mi lado. Bien, ahora, now I can see you, madam, very small, and myself, but I can work with that for the time being. If you can improve, that would be fine.
Okay, don't worry, sir. Let's go if you want to the question. Vamos entonces a las preguntas y, si les parece, vamos a comenzar con esa.
De primero quería decir que estoy encantado de encontrarme ante su think tank, y soy consciente de que los países de lengua que habla español, de lengua hispana, están particularmente bien representados en él. Sin embargo, hablaré en inglés. Mi pobre castellano nunca ha sido excelente y desde que salí de Madrid hace 15 años ahora he perdido gran parte de él. Espero que me perdonen.
Usted habla excelente español, le vamos a entender y seguro que nuestra audiencia
he perdido todo.
Le va a agradecer muchísimo, además.
We continue in English and I'm waiting for your question.
Ok, perfecto. Vamos entonces, si le parece, con una de las primeras preguntas que le queremos hacer. What was your main motivation for writing this open letter with Taleb Rifai, highlighting the lack of transparency and ethics of the current Secretary General, Mr. Suraf Pololikashvili? ¿Qué es lo que le llevó a usted a escribir esta carta abierta en la que está exponiendo, junto al otro exsecretario de la Organización Mundial del Turismo, lo que considera una falta falta de transparencia y de ética del actual secretario general, el señor Zurab Polykashvili?
Yes, Taleb Rifai and I, both we served as Secretary General for 2 decades, together 2 decades, and we transformed this organization into a specialized agency of the United Nations. I feel deeply concerned about the events which has unfolded since Zurab Polykashvili election in 2017. Really, it saddens me to witness the state of our beloved UNWTO over the past 8 years. And Taleb Rifai, I spoke with him, feels the same. We still remain proud of what we have done over these 2 decades and this recognition by the international community, which took place, culminated in 2004, when we became what is called in the UN a full-fledged agency, first-rank agency, and then WTO became UNWTO. And I prefer to ignore the name of UN tourism, which means nothing and which is not in accordance with the stages. So this is my first answer, madam.
Wow, and that's a great answer, sir. En la carta mencionan su preocupación por la gestión de la Organización Mundial del Turismo en los últimos años. ¿Qué aspectos específicos consideran más alarmantes? In your letter, sir, you mentioned your concerns about the organization's management in recent years. What specific aspect do you find most alarming?
Yes, the current management of the World Tourism Organization raises many concerns. The first one relates to the leadership. When he was elected, Mr. Polykashvili decided to have a deputy secretary general, which is fully in accordance with the status, with the staff rules. I have been myself, a long time ago, a deputy secretary general. And he recruited for this position one of his competitors, a very smart person from Colombia. But after a few months, this person was marginalized and forced to leave. And then the Secretary General returned to a structure with himself and 3 executive directors. It's not in accordance with the staff rules. It's heavy, it's bureaucratic, and it has a high cost. This is not a good management.
Sir, ¿qué opina usted sobre el proceso de selección del próximo líder de la Organización Mundial del Turismo? Conversando con algunos expertos, ministros, parece que hay, según sus opiniones, cierto proselitismo del actual secretario general para ganarse algunos apoyos entre gobiernos. Y nos ponían un ejemplo de Brasil y de República Dominicana. What do you think, sir, about the selection process for the next organization leader? Having spoken with some experts and ministers, they talk about a certain degree of proselytizations by the current Secretary General to gain support among governments such as Brazil or Dominican Republic. What's your opinion about this?
I don't know if the good word is proselytism, but what's true is that the members of the organization are not treated on an equal footstep. Those countries which are members of the Executive Council are clearly privileged by many aspects. It can be a recruitment. It can be an academic institution. It can be an office in charge of sustainability, like in Saudi Arabia. It can be a meeting of the Executive Council and a guide for investors, like in the Dominican Republic. And those countries which are not members of the Executive Council are left behind. They are completely forgotten, and for one simple reason. They will not vote for the re-election of the Secretary General. Maybe the most striking point is one of the regional offices. It's not the first time it happened in WTO. The first Secretary General, Mr. Lonati, had tried that, and it failed. It failed for two reasons. A regional office should be able to be independent, to have, therefore, funding from the center, from the organization. And since UNWTO has no money, there is no funding, no staff. And secondly, to be regional, you need to have a leadership, a preeminence. There is none. Can you imagine, I don't know, Algeria report to the regional office in Morocco? This is unfeasible. This was the reason why this experiment failed at the time of Mr. Lonati, and this is going to fail again now. But the members sometimes they believe what they are saying, and they think it's a recognition to have such an office. It's just a manner to buy votes.
Bueno, muchas gracias, señor Frangialli. ¿Qué le parece si hacemos una breve pausa y enseguida regresamos con mucho más de esta interesante entrevista para conocer los pormenores que hay alrededor de la Organización Mundial del Turismo? En solo instantes.
Empoderada y decidida. En Univista Insurance contribuye al crecimiento de mi equipo y me siento agradecida por la confianza de mis clientes. Feliz Mes de la Mujer. Univista Insurance es tu mejor opción.
Al llegar a este país, todos perseguimos el sueño americano. Nos sacrificamos día y noche para asegurar un futuro prometedor para nuestras familias. Pero ¿te has preguntado qué ocurriría si no pudieras seguir trabajando? En estos tiempos difíciles hay muchas preocupaciones, pero perder sus ingresos no debería ser una de ellas. Univista Insurance le ofrece un seguro de vida con beneficios en vida por menos de $1 al día en la mayoría de los casos. Llame hoy y hable con uno de nuestros agentes. Univista Insurance, su mejor opción.
Univista Insurance.
Después de lo que han expuesto públicamente en esa carta, ¿cómo describiría usted el impacto de una posible reelección de Zurab Pololikashvili en la organización? How would you describe the impact of Zurab's re-election inside of the organization?
Señora de la Fuente, I think that this is the major point I would like to make today. Re-electing the incumbent, the current Secretary General, is likely to end in a deadlock. I explain to you why. At the last General Assembly in Uzbekistan, there was a resolution proposed by the host country, Uzbekistan, not to re-elect the Secretary General, but that it could continue like that, his term, with no limit, with no formal election. It's incredible. Of course, there was an opposition, and more than 1/3 of the members, they said no to this incredible idea. If you have more than 1/3 of vote against you, you have a problem. You have a problem because this year, if by chance Mr. Pololikashvili is proposed by the Council, it will go to the Assembly, and if you have 1/3, more than 1/3 of opponents, you need a 2/3 majority. Therefore, if you have more than 1/3 of opponents, you are not elected. And we don't know, no one knows from the inception of the organization what would happen if the Secretary General proposed by the Council is not confirmed. We would enter into an unknown territory.
Wow. Vivimos en un momento de falta de transparencia. ¿Qué irregularidades han identificado ustedes en esos procesos de elección y de reelección también quizá del secretario general? Y sé que es una pregunta complicada. What irregularities were identified in the election and re-election processes of the current Secretary General? I know that this is difficult, but I know that you also have that answer, sir.
It's a bit, excuse me, it's a bit complicated to explain, but I shall try. The first election was flawed in two ways. At the level of the council, there were two candidates from Africa, one from Zimbabwe, the other one from Seychelles. And wrong information was given to the candidate from the Seychelles. He withdrew his candidature. He could have continued. With that, the one from Zimbabwe gathered all the African votes, and Mr. Política was selected by default because this guy from Zimbabwe was not acceptable for many countries. This is at the level of the council. Wow. Then when we went to the assembly, in the statutes, it's required that the election of the Secretary General is done through individual and secret ballot. This was not done in Chengdu, China, for the election of Mr. Política. I can explain why. It's a bit long, but it was not done. Therefore, it was not the normal process. When came his re-election 4 years afterwards, it was at the time of the COVID pandemic, and Mr. Política used the excuse of this pandemic to subtly manipulate the council. There was no information, no campaign, no other candidate until the last minute, and his election went like that. And finally, because this has been under discussion, is Mr. Política, could he run for a third term? My answer is, legally speaking, strictly legally speaking, yes, but it won't be legitimate. Since the General Assembly in 2005, that was my time, in Dakar, decided to limit to 2 terms. It has not been implemented because this change in the statute has not been ratified, but this is the wish of the General Assembly. So, legally speaking, Mr. Política can run. It's not my pleasure to say that, but he can. But it will be against the wish of the supreme organ of the UNWTO, which is its General Assembly.
¿Le parece a usted si hacemos una nueva pausa? Regresamos enseguida con mucho más de esta interesante entrevista desde nuestros estudios de Univista TV aquí en la Ciudad del Sol. En instantes.
Don Francisco, esto es gigante. Univida Medical Centers tiene cada vez más servicios bajo un mismo techo.
Así es, Javier. Univida Medical Center cubre todas las necesidades de sus pacientes.
Son personas maravillosas que te hacen sentir con más vida, con más vitalidad, con deseos de seguir adelante.
Llama ya y nuestras expertas operadoras te asesorarán en todos los beneficios que calificas.
Porque la salud es vida, Univida.
Llama ya. Qué bueno que no apareció el chacal.
Si tú no te quieres perder todo el contenido que estamos haciendo desde aquí, desde Univista TV, Marian de la Fuente, Sánchez Grau, Wahap en Miami, La Habana en Hialeah, la bodega Madeín, Cuba y muchísimo más, tienes que suscribirte ahora mismo porque Univista TV
¿Cómo es? Tienes que suscribirte ahora mismo al canal, aquí mismo en UniVista TV.
En la carta señalan también un aumento en los costos y en la selección del personal. ¿Cómo cree usted, con su experiencia, que debería corregirse esta situación? Same letter to point out an increasing cost and personal selection. How should this situation be corrected?
Since 2017, the number of the staff has not changed. Remain more or less around 100. Many people were forced to leave, or they were pushed out. Some of them took an early retirement, but globally it didn't change a lot. But since you have replaced those who have left by friends of the Secretary General and his entourage, paid at a high level, then you have the costs are becoming higher. It's not a sound situation, but the one we have now, where you have 24 persons which are unbudgeted, not a normal budget, and out of 106. You need some flexibility, but not so much. So if today you have a rather difficult financial situation in the organization, basically it's because of the cost of the staff.
¿Por qué consideran ustedes, yo soy periodista y vengo habitualmente de darme cuenta que en muchas organizaciones se ha perdido la transparencia, se ha perdido la ética o se ha deteriorado. ¿Por qué consideran ustedes que se ha deteriorado esa ética y esa transparencia dentro de la Organización Mundial del Turismo? Why do you think the transparency and ethics have deteriorated inside of the organization?
There are some, could I say, old-fashioned words that we don't hear so much now in UNWTO, when we speak of UNWTO. Words of ethics, transparency, respect, dignity, intellectual honesty, fairness, tolerance, mutual understanding, and maybe also friendship among people and countries. I think that ethics should prevail even at the level of the Secretary General and his team, and in relation with the staff and the members. Governing transparency is a must. You need to give a fair and comprehensive information to the members. You know, you have a mechanism of financial audit, external audit. It works if the auditors receive a complete information on the state of the finance. If not, they will say yes, they will approve, but without having the appropriate information. This is what I call transparency.
Eso sería deseable realmente, la ética, la transparencia, la honestidad, lo que usted está diciendo, ese comprendimiento mutuo debería realmente prevalecer y esa información al resto del staff también debería prevalecer, pero tristemente no es así. ¿Cómo afectó, cambiando un poco el tema, la salida de países importantes como por ejemplo el Reino Unido, como por ejemplo Canadá o Australia, a la representatividad de la organización? How did the withdrawal of major countries such as the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia affect the representation of the organization?
When I was Secretary General, Australia, Canada, UK, Norway, were members of the organization. They are not today. I had a letter from the Department of Commerce of the United States recommending to President Bush, it was Bush at that time, to rejoin the organization. All this has been left. These countries are not there, and Mr. Zurab announced several times that the United States will come back. They did not. This is, ladies and gentlemen, my major preoccupation. This is a weakness for the organization is vulnerable without these members. You know, in the statutes of the organization, you should pay special attention to the developing countries. This is the Article 3 of the statutes. But to pay an attention, you need to have the developed industrialized countries there. They have the money, they are the generating market for the countries of the South. So you need them. If you have not these people, you cannot apply the article of the statutes and fulfill this mission in their favor. Really, working on that will be the major challenge for the future Secretary General.
Yo creo que cuando países salen, efectivamente, es uno de los mayores retos hacer que vuelvan a adherirse a una organización, y obviamente lo que usted está manifestando, la preocupación y la debilidad que puede traer a la organización el hecho de que estos países se hayan alejado, es un dato que se deberá tener en cuenta, sobre todo ahora que vaya a haber un nuevo secretario general a través de esa elección. ¿Cree que la exclusión de Rusia, hablando de estos temas, por iniciativa del actual secretario general, ha sido también un error estratégico para la Organización Mundial del Turismo? Do you think that the exclusion of Russia at the initiative of the current Secretary General was a strategic mistake for the organization, sir?
Mr. Pololekashvili, as you know, is from Georgia. At that time, the government of Ukraine and the government of Georgia were politically very close. This is not any longer the case because the Georgian government has changed. Mr. Pololekashvili was maybe sincerely shocked by what happened between Russia and Ukraine, but he thought he had the mission to expel Russia because of that. No, you can condemn, as I do myself personally, what the Russian Federation has been doing in 2022. But you cannot push out an important country like Russia. No other organization of the UN system has done that. The UN, Russia is still, as before, a member of the Security Council of the UN. Really, it was a big, big mistake.
¿Cómo evalúa usted? Llegamos al momento clave, el momento de la elección o de la reelección. ¿Cómo evalúa usted las candidaturas que han sido presentadas para este puesto del secretario general? How do you evaluate the candidates for this position of Secretary General? I know that this is a very specific moment, but which is your opinion?
I would like to make clear that I am very severe with the way that the UNWTO is governed, but I have nothing personal, not at all, against Mr. Pololekashvili. There are 6 candidates for this election, and there are 3 of them have a chance. The incumbent, Mrs. Gloria Guevara Manzo from Mexico, and Mr. Harry Terraris from Greece. I think that these 2 persons are high-level and good candidates. They have their different profile. Both of them have been a minister of a very important tourism country. Greece and Mexico are key players on the tourism industry. Mrs. Guevara has been also the President and Chief Executive Officer of the World Travel and Tourism Council. She has an experience with the private sector, which can be very, very precious if she is elected. So we have a chance. We have two good possible candidates, one of them having maybe a profile which is more complete.
Llega el momento de hacer una nueva pausa. Enseguida regresamos con mucho más de esta interesante entrevista al exsecretario de Turismo de la Organización Mundial, el señor Francesco Frangialli, en solo instantes.
Soy mujer univista, con energía, compromiso y profesionalismo. Dejo mi huella cada día. Atender a mis clientes es un privilegio que agradezco profundamente. Gracias por acompañarme en este camino al éxito, porque Univista es tu mejor opción.
¿Te preocupa el costo de tu seguro de auto? No estás solo. Muchos conductores se enfrentan al desafío de encontrar un equilibrio entre un seguro asequible y una cobertura completa. En Univista Insurance entendemos tus preocupaciones y estamos para ayudarte a encontrar una solución que se adapte a tus necesidades y presupuesto. ¿Sabías que una forma de reducir el costo del seguro de auto es revisar cuidadosamente tu póliza actual? A menudo los conductores pagan por coberturas que no necesitan o que tienen el límite más alto de lo necesario. Podemos trabajar juntos para personalizar tu póliza, eliminando coberturas innecesarias y ajustando los límites de cobertura para que estén alineados a tus necesidades reales. En Univista Insurance puedes tener la tranquilidad de saber que estás obteniendo la cobertura que necesitas al mejor precio. Llámanos hoy mismo para una consulta gratis.
Univista es la mejor opción. Univista Insurance.
¿Cuál es la relación actual entre la Organización Mundial del Turismo y el sector privado? How do you assess the current relationship between the organization and the private sector?
In our statute, we have three categories of members. The full members, which are 157 countries, the associate members, autonomous territories, and you have the affiliates, which are basically from the private sector, even if you have NGOs, universities, and other groups. It's really a plus for the organization. It's an asset for the UNWTO to have these 400 affiliate members. We are not exploiting well this asset. I was unable to do it as much as I would have wanted to do, and it has remained like that. You have new members arriving, or ancient members leaving. There is a strong turnover. Many are coming just to have their name on a business card, which is not really the problem. So one challenge for the future Secretary General will be to give some momentum to this relation with the private sector. I mentioned that Gloria Guevara could be the one for doing that. We are the only organization in the UN system with ILO, the International Labour Organization, with the presence of the private sector. It's different in ILO. We have really to take the full benefit from this participation.
Yo hablaba antes de la politización que habitualmente existe dentro de estos organismos. Tristemente lo hemos visto también a nivel general dentro de la Organización de Naciones Unidas, de las organizaciones dependientes de Naciones Unidas. Pero ¿qué impacto tiene esa misma politización de la Organización Mundial del Turismo en la capacidad de poder actuar como un organismo realmente imparcial? What is the impact that this politicization of the organization have on its ability to act as an impartial body?
All what we have been saying today is about that. I think that the failure that we have noted in terms of governance, in terms of staff management, and recruitment, in terms of relation with the members, mean that the organization is politicized, that some decisions are taken for political reasons and not for the benefit of the institution. Really, this has to change as soon as possible.
¿Quién está gobernando la Organización Mundial del Turismo, señor Frangialli? ¿El secretario general o los países miembros en este momento? ¿Cree usted que los países deben tener una mayor responsabilidad en esas decisiones y estar también al mismo tiempo involucrados en la gestión de la organización de una forma un poquito más profunda? My question now is who governs the organizations, the Secretary General or the members countries? Do you think that countries should take greater responsibility for the decisions and be more involved in the organization's management?
Who governs UNWTO? From the statutes, it's very clear. The members. The members through the General Assembly, where all of them are sitting, and which is a supreme organ above the Executive Council. With the current Secretary General, there is a king, omnipotent king. You have France, you have courtiers. This is the opposite of what it should do. You need to have someone who is not a king, but who serves the organization.
Well, I think that the answer is there for many people that is at this point added to our coverage. Ha habido desde hace mucho tiempo, como yo les decía, muchos años, y sobre todo últimamente, muchas críticas a la ONU en general, también por su falta de transparencia, por la falta de control, por el desconocimiento de lo que ocurría en alguna de sus agencias dentro de la institución. UNRWA, por ejemplo, fue uno de los últimos ejemplos. ¿Cree usted que la ONU debe estar más atenta a lo que está pasando en sus agencias especializadas? Do you think that the United Nations should pay more attention to what's happening in its these specialized agencies?
You will be surprised, maybe, but there is no mechanism of
that's the point.
supervision of the UNWTO, of any other specialized agency, by the UN themselves, except maybe for the common rules for the staff. But this is very limited. It's not a hierarchy. It's a family. It's a system. Sister institution, and no one is above the other. I can tell you in confidence that I know rather well the current Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres. I have been working with him when he was the Prime Minister of Portugal and when he was at the head of the one major program in the UN for the refugees. Personally, Mr. Guterres is very, very interested in tourism. Maybe because tourism is important for Portugal. Mr. Guterres many times came to me to speak about tourism. Even if he was informed of what's happening in UNWTO, he could not do anything. I think we have to find a way to change that, but I will be unable to give you an answer because it does not depend on the UNWTO, it depends on the UN themselves.
Usted tiene una enorme experiencia, es una persona además muy admirada, muy influyente todavía dentro del organismo. ¿Qué características, según su experiencia, debería tener este próximo secretario general de la Organización Mundial del Turismo? Under your experience, extended experience, sirs, which characteristics should have the next Secretary General of the organizations? What do you think that this is the specific things that this person should have?
The future Secretary General, from my point of view, should be competent. This is number one, competent, but also intellectually honest, financially upright. He should be listening to the others. He should be modest and human. As you can see, there are a lot of progress which are to be made.
Por último, me gustaría hacerle una pregunta que yo creo que muchas de las personas que nos están escuchando en estos momentos y viendo en estos momentos se hacen, y es ¿qué mensaje específico le daría usted a los miembros del Consejo Ejecutivo, a los ministros de Turismo, para que tomaran la decisión adecuada en esa próxima elección? What message would you give to the members of the Executive Council, the tourism ministers who will make this decision in the upcoming election? Which could be that a specific message to them, sir?
It will be brief. I am quoting what I said in my statement in esta carta. I said, in selecting Mrs. Guevara or Mr. Terraris to become the 6th Secretary General of the UNWTO, the Executive Council will make no mistake.
Yo quiero agradecerle especialmente, señor, por su tiempo, por haber estado con nosotros y por haber compartido estas valiosísimas opiniones. Thank you very much, Mr. Frangialli, for your time and for sharing your valuable insights with us at this very specific time. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Frangialli.
Thank you very much, and muchas gracias.
Y así llegamos al final de nuestro programa de hoy. Espero que lo hayan disfrutado, un programa especial como ustedes han visto, donde hemos podido conocer un poquito más de la Organización Mundial del Turismo, de lo que viene ahora con esa próxima elección. Queremos agradecer muy especialmente a los ministros de Turismo que han estado también siguiendo la transmisión especial, a los periodistas que han colaborado también desde diferentes partes del mundo y, por supuesto, a todos los compañeros de aquí, de UniVista TV, que han hecho posible esta coordinación internacional. Y antes de despedirnos, yo quisiera darles un consejo también muy importante, y es que utilicen ese número de teléfono que aparece en pantalla. ¿Por qué? Porque es el teléfono de Univista Insurance. Quizá usted no tiene un seguro, quizá está pensando ampliar su póliza o ver si realmente la póliza que tiene se ajusta al dinero que usted está pagando y a la cobertura que recibe. Si es así, llame, hable con una de nuestras agentes, porque quizá tiene la oportunidad, como muchos otros clientes, de ahorrar hasta un 40% de descuento con una cobertura aún mucho más amplia. Así que ya lo sabe, suscríbase a nuestro canal de televisión, a UniVista TV, y haga uso de ese número de teléfono para poder ahorrar. Que pase una felicísima noche y, si Dios quiere, nos vemos mañana. Chao, chao.